Hello everybody, I'm Raphael Perry and it's time once again for some more Fabled Lands. Now last time we ventured into Golnir and obtained a magic shield. But now it's time to move on, away from the Rainbow River into the open countryside. The farmers in these parts are ruddy-cheeked and jolly, always ready with a foaming stoup of ale and a cheery chat. If you took up every offer of hospitality, you would never reach your destination. You cannot resist the temptation to stop off at the fair. 2 whole fields are covered with gaudily coloured tents and stalls where you can watch juggling, acrobatics, dancing bears and singing birds. You line up at a coconut shy, only instead of coconuts, the cups contain human heads. When you point out to the stall holder that this is a rather grisly joke, he can only shrug. I am a worshipper of the god Nagil, and dead things do not revolt me in the least. Anyway, look along the queue. There are plenty of people willing to throw a few balls if you are not. You throw 3 balls and manage to win a pirate captain's head. Okay. You're travelling cross-country in eastern Golnir and the rolling hills that sweep down towards the broad river valley of the Grim. A horse trader tells you that the town of Goldfall is close at hand. See this scar on my forehead, he says, pulling off his straw hat. A nugget fell from the sky and brained me, so it did. But a villain made off with my nugget while I lay stretched out senseless on the grass. I wonder if they stole anything else while he was out cold. Let's head down to the town of Wheatfields. I have a plan for this episode, and that plan is trying to divest myself of this flaming opal eye, and now a pirate captain's head that I did not expect to come across. Wheatfields is in the very heart of the fertile countryside of Golnir and forms the hub of trade in the hinterland. You can buy a townhouse here for 100 shards. A visit to Wheatfields market is a noisy, bustling affair. You force your way through the crowds of farmers who have come to trade their cattle. Outside the taverns, merchants of the south lean eagerly across the tables as they discuss the year's grain prices. And I'm aware the music seems to be trying to drown me out. I'll have to check how it plays back in the recording. It's good music, don't get me wrong, and I'm sure there's some very nice music in the new DLC that I've not yet experienced. So, I look forward to those new music tracks. I don't need to buy a wolf's pelt. There's 2 temples mined. A Temple of Maka and a Temple of Nagil. You want to see how the divine is represented in this settlement. Maka is the dread goddess of disease and famine, who must be propitiated to ensure good harvests. When Maka is angry, the crops are struck with pestilence and people go hungry. Her temple is a high-gabled building of dark wood with narrow leaded lights that admit only a dismal gloom to the interior of the nave. Let's see if we can gain a blessing. If you're an initiate, it costs only 10 shards to purchase Maka's blessing. A non-initiate must pay 20 shards. If you will obtain an immunity to disease and poison. This blessing works by allowing you to ignore any one occasion when you would normally suffer from disease or poison, for instance the venomous bite of a snake. You can only have 1 immunity to disease and poison blessing at any time, but once it is used up, you can return to any branch of the Temple of Maka to buy a new one. 20 shards, that's a steal. You gain an immunity to disease and poison blessing. Let's leave the temple. There's also a Temple of Nagil. Nagil is the god of death and is usually depicted as a cowled figure with a hollow black stare. Paradoxically, his temple is no stately mausoleum, but a wide, high-towered building from whose minarets a haunting melody is sung both at dawn and at dusk. We'll leave the temple, nothing special for us here. And we'll head along the old road towards Delpton. You're travelling on an old stone road. Carved limestone monoliths occur at intervals of 7 leagues, each with an inscription marking the distance to the High King's seat. The High King's seat, by the way, is not in Golnir. It's further to the west, in Old Harkuna. Perhaps we shall visit there some day. For now, we've come across pilgrims on the road. The pilgrims are on their way to the Abbey of Lacuna, the goddess of the moon. We are not an initiate of Lacuna, so we shall pass on. The village of Delpton flourishes by the shipping of grain downriver to Ringhorn. Delpton Market is a small by the standards of great cities of the south coast, but you may find some other useful knickknacks anyway. Let's see what we've got here. There's a fishing hook. You know what? Yes, we'll buy that fishing hook. In case we can ever run into those hunters again. Heading down the road towards Castle Ravane, we observe that it is built of old grey cobblestones, which are now half overgrown with a carpet of rich green grass. Sometimes you pass a patrol of soldiers or a peasant leading his cattle to market. You do not expect any trouble on this well-patrolled stretch of road. We meet a partner, and you know what? Let's pay his fee. A sanctity blessing, thank you very much. We'll go back to Delpton and continue to search this road for the old gibbet. There we are. An eerie glimmer shines between the trees that overhang the road a little way ahead. Venturing a little further, you see in the gathering distance that an old iron gibbet is set on one side of the road. The glowing light hangs around it like a bubble of marsh gas. The ghost comes as before. You have returned with proof. Ah, the wretch's gemstone eye. Good. Good. He takes the flaming opal eye and seeps down into the dank soil. You dig and find a chest containing 250 shards. Also gain 1 point of sanctity for having righted a wrong. Excellent. We shall now head back to Castle Ravane. The black turrets of Castle Ravane rise above the treetops. From the topmost towers flutters the black lion banner of the Ravane clan. This is the stronghold of Varna, Baroness of Ravane, and while we had heard whispers of one who may wish to do her wrong, we don't have enough information to justify attempting to enter the castle. Let us travel on further. You can travel south towards the coast or venture into the heart of Golnir. Journeying by river costs 5 shards. We'll take the river road south. You are on the road that follows the banks of the Reese River between Castle Ravane and the port city of Ringhorn. 5 swarthy brigands leap out from the hedge at the side of the road. They are masked with silk scarves, but you can hear their sneers as they raise their sword and demand, "Your money or your life?" We're not going to hand over our cash. They might run us down if we try to run away. There's 1 of us and 5 of them. Any one of us could get exhausted first, and odds are against me. There's more of them. Let's fight them. This will not be an easy fight. The brigands seem almost amused by the sport. Little do they know, I come equipped with combat and death at my side. Allegedly, in theory, and a magic shield. There really are 5 of them, however, they don't have a lot of health, do they? Let's go for the old 1-2 combination. And that drops 1 of them. We have our spear, which fells a second. And as they close for damage and we drop a third, we may experience imminent harm. In fact, damage has been done. We've been bruised and maybe even bleeding. 2 whole points of damage were received in the entire fight. You ought to have learnt a few tricks in that fight. Searching for bodies of the brigands, you find 4 suits of leather armour, 1 suit of ring mail, 5 swords, and a purse containing 37 shards. Well, we got the shards. We'll take the ring mail and then see how much... Okay, we got room for 3 more things. I'll take the leather armour and 2 swords because I'm not sure if the swords will sell better, but this is a good opportunity to find out. In Ringhorn. Ringhorn receives goods from all along the Reese River, trading along the coast from Utaku to Yellowport and south to distant Ankon Konu. It is a very large, bustling city. You can buy a townhouse here for 150 shards. Ringhorn Market consists of hundreds of stalls crowded into a cobbled square under the walls of the sheriff's citadel. Let us indeed go to market. 45 for the leather armour, 40 for the short swords. I made the correct choice. So I'll sell those. For ring mail, definitely a good choice. Hot Pursuit. When you cast a signature spell, you gain 2 action points until the end of the round. The following skills are signature spells: Animal Companion, Stunning Blow, Lightning Strike, and Cleansing Flame. Now, the thing about Cleansing Flame is it's 4 action points. Which means I would have 4 more left over. 2 movement doesn't let me do much, but 4 might let me attack with a one-handed weapon. Not so much of this spear. Could switch to magic sword, slightly less dangerous. Cleansing Flame. Better overall combat capability. Would be better for fighting groups. Let's do that anyway for now. There's also a second skill scroll here, Crippling Strike. Teaches you advanced techniques to further debilitate an opponent. Damage inflicted by targets affected by daze, frostbite, poison, or curse will be reduced by 2. Now, usually any target affected by curse is being hit by Cleansing Flame the next round, and generally doesn't survive that. There are some sturdier opponents, and giving them a damage penalty is probably a good thing. However, do we want to blow all that money on that right now? Let's stop at the inn. You can get lodging here for 1 shard a day. Each day you spend here allows you to recover 1 stamina point if injured. Let's spend 5 shards to buy a round of drinks and listen for rumours. You overhear a storyteller regaling a group of farmers from a nearby village with his tall tales. He tells a story of a trowl that for some reason took up residence in a farmer's field. It caused no trouble until harvest time, when it decided to make its bed in the haystacks. Each day, the farmer and his sons piled up the bales of hay, only to find them scattered all over the field by the following morning. "Do you know what that farmer did?" says the storyteller. "He got a pot of fairy mead, which the trowl loved. The trowl got drunk on the mead, but was left out for it, fell into a doze, and the farmer's sons killed it with their pitchforks when they found it the next day asleep in a haystack." Where did he get the fairy mead, you ask? Ah, that's a different story. Now we have some fairy mead, and there will be an instance up on the Great Steps where we can use it to lull Trowl to sleep. There are 3 temples, And we do want to see how a divine is represented in this settlement. There's a Temple of Alvir and Valmir, a Temple of Elnir, and a Temple of Sig. The Temple of Alvir and Valmir is a great pillared edifice of blazing white marble on the esplanade, looking out over the bay. The twin gods are responsible for storms at sea. In the nave of the temple, a mural depicts them as fishers, hauling up the souls of the drowned in their nets. You do not have to be an initiate to worship here, intones a priest, but it makes the temple's services that much cheaper. If you're an initiate, it costs only 5 shards to obtain the twin gods of the sea, to propitiate the twin gods of the sea. A non-initiate must pay 30 shards. A safety from storms blessing works by allowing you to ignore any one storm at sea. Let's do that. Because there are times where we can randomly lose one of our blessings, so the more blessings we bundle on, let's count them, 4, the harder it will be to lose the next one we need. Currently, Magic and Thievery are our lowest ability scores, and the ones we are most likely to need to complete quests in Saqqara. Let's visit the Temple of Elnir. The Temple of Elnir is a majestic palace of black marble inlaid with veins of gold. Elnir is the foremost god of the pantheon, the patron of kings and of warlords and kings. I was going to say kings and queens 2 or 3 times there and realised what it said. His realm is said to lie between the mountains of the sky, and whenever there is a storm, the simple folk say, "Something has angered Elnir." Let's seek a blessing. If you're an initiate, it costs only 10 shards to purchase Elnir's blessing. A non-initiate must pay 25 shards. You will obtain a charisma blessing. The blessing works by allowing you to try again when you have failed a charisma roll. It is good for only 1 reroll. Once it is used up, you can return to any branch of the Temple of Elnir to buy a new one. We'll have that. And then visit the Temple of Sig. Temples occasionally contain quests, just not very often at the moment. The Temple of Sig is a narrow, high-gabled edifice close to the waterfront. Nominally, Sig is the patron deity of lovers, vagabonds, and travelling entertainers, but he is also a god of cunning and deception, and as such is worshipped by those who live outside the law. Maybe we could do with a blessing. The Blessing of Sig costs 10 shards if you're an initiate, 30 shards otherwise. It works by allowing you to reroll any failed thievery attempt once. You can have only 1 blessing for each ability at any one time. Once your thievery blessing is used up, you can return to any branch of the Temple of Sig to buy a new one. We'll buy that, and we'll head on out of Golnir, along the road east towards Matricians. You're on the coastal road that snakes along the windswept cliff tops between Ringhorn Port and the market town of Matricians. A troop of militiamen comes marching along the road. A burly man-at-arms with wild hair is leading the column, a wicked flail in one hand and a shield adorned with a black boar in the other. Seeing you, he stops and waves his men to a halt. His little eyes squint at you from beneath the bushy brows, and it seems to you his fat nose wriggles for a moment as if sniffing the air. "Ah, my mistake," the man finally grumbles. "Thought you might be one of them poachers infesting these woods. Lousy murdering lot they are, but you don't look the part. Keep your eyes peeled on the road, traveller." The militiamen continue on their patrol, and soon you're alone on the road again. I think, and I may be wrong here, that the wereboar encounter from the Island of the Druids is here in the original books. And you can meet the militiamen like this, or you can meet him as a wereboar. At the side of the coastal road there is a weathered old fort. It looks abandoned, with moss cladding the pitted black stones of its high walls. Its empty windows stare out to sea. It may be a relic from ancient times when the ruthless Utakin swept up out of the south to conquer all Harkonnen. Let's not go in there for now. We'll probably return here at a later point and continue on our way. Matricians is a large trading city of broad market plazas and great palaces built by the wealth of merchant princes. You can buy a townhouse here for 200 shards. The market is one of the largest you have ever seen. It stretches for hundreds of yards through piazzas covered with silk awnings, along the great esplanade overlooking the bay, and through shadowy colonnades, where fortunes are made and lost in the course of a single conversation. Let's head to market, where we can sell this pirate captain's head for 150 shards, and you know what? It's taking up space in our inventory, we could do without it. There are troubadour skills for sale here. They require a base charisma of 6. We have a base of 5. And they're all too expensive for us anyway. Let's explore the town. You set out in the city to listen for rumours. There's naturally no shortage of such in a teeming city like Matricians, where merchants come and go from all corners of the known world. You hear a tale of a merchant who resolved to do business with the Trow, the eldritch race that dwells in caverns below the world. But the merchant did not foresee that the Trow have no use for human coinage. They bundled him up and took him off to their subterranean vaults. What did they do with him, you ask the man who is telling the story. He's not sure. Boiled him down to make oil for their lamps, I expect. Now, there is a particular event we would like to get when exploring this town, but I'm not going to force it just yet. We'll be back here often enough. At the inn, we can get lodging for 1 shard a day. Each day you spend here allows you to recover 1 stamina point if injured. Let's rest a day. And we're sticking for the most part, resting for just 1 day in each location house rule, to keep things a little more balanced and interesting. We could explore town again before we leave. Let's do it one more time. Same story. Let's... oh, there's 3 temples. Alder and Valmy of the 3 Fortunes and Nagil. The Temple of the 3 Fortunes is a hushed, echoing hallway where a triple-branched candelabrum burns wanly on an altar of green stone. In the dim light you can make out a tapestry that depicts the 3 goddesses as a young maiden, a woman and an old crone, so literally the 3 Norns from Norse mythology. Let's seek a blessing. If you're an initiate, it costs only 20 shards to purchase the 3 Fortunes blessing. A non-initiate must pay 80 shards. Generally, being initiated into a religion in this game just gives you a discount on blessings. The luck blessing works by allowing you to reroll any dice result once. It is good for only 1 reroll. You can only have 1 luck blessing at any one time. Once it is used up, you can return to any branch of the Temple of 3 Fortunes to buy a new one. We will do that. It's expensive, but we just sold a pirate captain's head for almost twice that much. Let's leave Matricians. You're on a road that stretches across the downs between Haggart's Corner and the coast. We come across some wandering priests who give us some advice on religious rituals that might stand you in good stead, as well as a potion of godliness. Bidding the priest farewell, you continue on your way. The town of Haggart's Corner stands at a place where 3 roads meet. Here, in certain seasons of the year, the Trow are said to come and trade their marvellous trinkets in exchange for human favours. It is a pretty pastel-hued town. Houses with high gables and mullioned bay windows are set around a series of courts where fountains splash dreamily in the sunlight. The market at Haggart's Corner amounts to just a few shops whose dusty shelves suggest they don't do a roaring trade. People prefer to do business with the Trow, says one shopkeeper with a shrug. Who can compete? Perhaps you will find a bargain here all the same. Rope? Look, it may come in useful at some point. Let's get some rope. I'm tempted by that holy symbol, but I'm going to hold off a little. There's only a temple of Lacuna here. Lacuna is the moon goddess and the overseer of the hunt. She is the patron deity of woodsmen, hunters, and those who walk in the wild corners of the world. Her temple here in Haggart's Corner is a simple log-built chapel with bronze shields set along the walls. Grass carpets the floor and there is a smell of heather in the air. Pine cones smoulder on the altar. Let's leave them smouldering there and head on north up the road. East of the Whistling Heath lie fertile lands that provide rich pickings for the yeomen of central Golnir. We have an uneventful journey. Now I'm going to head east here to the grim river bank. The countryside between the River Grim and the Whistling Heath is dotted with quaint villages where the tavern talk is of elfin glades and pranks of goblins at night. We want to spend a night at an inn here, but it won't be easy. There's lots of other events that may waylay us instead. You come across an old bogle laughing to himself. His body looks like a messy old tree stump and he has a mouth as wide as a sack of coal. When you ask why he's laughing, he replies, "Because there you are gawping instead of running away, and now I'm about to up and eat you." Uh-oh. The bogle picks you up and is about to pop you in his mouth. His breath makes an open drain smell as sweet as a bouquet of tulips and his teeth look like jagged bits of flint. You had better think fast if you don't want to end up being picked out of his teeth like a bit of with a bit of matchwood. Okay, so let's see. We pass our charisma check and I hope this won't spoil your appetite, you say to the bogle. He squints at you. Spoil my appetite for what? Oh, for those 7 lovely plump milkmaids I saw coming along the path a bit behind me. He licks his lips. Either that or he's halfway through eating a giant eel. I love milkmaids, he says. Very tasty. But you're right that I couldn't manage 7 of them after eating you. Decent of you to tell me. Oh, no problems. I'll just wait over here and you can eat me later. A sudden glint of suspicion appears in his beady little eyes, but by that time you're running away for all you're worth. It's a good job that bogles are so stupid. Right, well that didn't quite go according to plan. East of the Whistling Heath lie fertile lands that provide rich pickings for the yeomen of central Golnir. You encounter 7 fools, again, who are engaged in a preposterous venture. It is late afternoon when you cross a bridge near a mill pond. The 7 fools are wading around at the water's edge with rakes in their hands, lunging at the pond. They seem quite agitated, and when you ask what the matter is, one replies, "Just look, the moon's gone and fallen into the pond, and we better have her out by nightfall, or who knows what trouble there'll be." Ah, the legend of the Moonrakers. And people were wondering where that James Bond film got its name from. You explain it is just a reflection of the moon, which is palely visible in the sky by this hour. The fools are so relieved that one of them presents you with a 4-leaf clover. We'll take that. So we have a rabbit's foot lucky charm and a 4-leaf clover. That's twice as lucky, surely. We'll head to the grim riverbank once more. An uneventful journey. You know what, we'll try it one more time. The 7 fools again! You encounter 7 fools who are engaged in a preposterous venture. You find 7 simpletons weeping beside a stream. "Oh, whoa!" cries one. "Our friend is missing. I think he's drowned." You think he's drowned? You don't know for sure? "We only noticed him missing when it was time for us to go home. We counted ourselves to check if we were all here, but even those 7 left this morning, now there are but 6. He counts his friends. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You see? You point out that he's forgotten to count himself. "So no one's drowned at all?" they say, brightening up. "How can we ever repay you?" For what?" Why, for saving our poor drowned friend! The fools are so relieved that one of them presents you with a large potion of comeliness. You cannot help laughing at their idiocy. This is a story you can dine on for weeks, especially as you cannot persuade them that none of them actually drowned. Right, once more to the river. Ah, finally. Time for death. At dusk, seeing a light ahead, you quicken your pace and arrive at an inn. An old, peeling sign hangs outside it, creaking in the wind. As you approach, the door opens and the innkeeper beckons you to enter. "It's a cold and blustery night to be out," he says. "Let's enter the inn." You're given a bed beside the hearth in the common room. There are no other guests. "We don't get many travellers in these parts," explains the innkeeper as he bids you good night. In the middle of the night, you hear a knock on the door. A voice calls from outside. "Is anyone awake? Let me in." Well, we can't leave them outside in the cold now, can we? It's a blustery night to be about, as the innkeeper said. Let's open the door, even though he also said they don't get many travellers in these parts. Throwing open the door, you shiver as a gust of wind blows cold drizzle in your face. "Well, hurry up and enter then," you call out irritably. Thank you," says a tall gentleman in a cloak. He swoops past you into the room, showing a smile with rather too many sharp white teeth, and waits for you to close the door. You have a nasty feeling about this. You cannot reach your belongings, including armor and weapons, because the stranger is standing between you and the hearth. We can run out into the night, lose all our stuff here, or go back to bed. The stranger leans closer, pressing his lips to your neck. You feel a pricking sensation. Jumping back, you see a trickle of blood on his sharp white teeth. A vampire! Let's make a sanctity roll. We got a blessing for this one in case we need it. Oh! You recite from the sacred scriptures. The vampire presses his hands to his ears and runs to and fro, issuing long, terrible howls before finally escaping up the chimney. He leaves behind a scarab amulet and a tarnished sword, which you can add to your possessions if you like. You go back to bed. Our inventory is full. Too full for a rusty sword? Let's ditch the lantern. We can get another one if we need to. You spend a restful night at the inn. The innkeeper asks you to pay 1 shard for the night's lodging. When you are ready, you set out. Back to the East Road. East of the Whistling Heath lie fertile lands that provide rich pickings for the yeomen of central Golnir. We have an uneventful journey. We'll go back down to Haggart's Corner. The town of Haggart's Corner stands at a place where 3 roads meet. Here, in certain seasons of the year, the Trow are said to come and trade their marvellous trinkets in exchange for human favours. It is a pretty pastel-hued town. Houses with white gables and mullioned bay windows are set around a series of courts where fountains splash dreamily in the sunlight. The market at Haggart's Corner amounts to just a few shops whose dusty shelves suggest they don't do a roaring trade. We've been here before. Let's stay overnight at the inn and head on out. The Saucy Goblin Inn was not the best place for us to stay, but it was the only one in town. The road snakes on between the verdant farmland. To either side you see peasants working in the fields. The barns and thatched roof cottages present an idyll of peace and contentment. In fact, Golnir is deceptively safe feeling. You strike up a conversation with a dwarf who's going in the same direction. He works as a jester in the winter-time, usually spending a month at each castle he visits. My jokes and tricks mean I am much in demand. And in the summer? Alas, no one has time for feasts when the weather is fine. His friendly wit inspires you. It seems the dwarf enjoys your company as well. Before you part ways, he presents you with a gift, a potion of comeliness. Well, I mean, the rope was cheap. We can always get some more, right? let's part with that and take his potion. We are, of course, headed for Castle Ravain. The road to the coast carries a constant traffic of trade goods to and from the hinterland. The merchants have plenty of goods to trade. Items without a buying price listed are not stocked, but you can still sell such things if you have it. Let's sell the tarnished sword. It's not that great, and it's made some space in our pack. Here, in the peaceful countryside of southwest Golnir, hay carts rumble down leafy lanes and peasants look up from their work with a cheery wave. The dangers that an adventurer must often face are easily forgotten in this idyllic setting. A storyteller is sitting on a grassy hummock beside a leafy lane, regaling the children from a nearby village with his tall tales. Let's listen to one. His story concerns a man who found a copper pot under a tree stump. He wisely left a little silver in this, and was rewarded with health and good luck. He told his lazy brother about the pot, and he did the same. But the brother wasn't content with just health and luck, so he tried to bribe the fairy folk with bigger and bigger gifts. Finally, they gave him a wart so big that it covered his whole face. A cautionary tale which certainly seems to have quietened the local children down. We don't want a wart the size of a face. If we ever come across a copper pot buried under a tree, we should probably leave it well be, or maybe put a little coin in it. The black turrets of Castle Ravain rise above the rooftops. From the topmost tower flutters the black lion banner of the Ravain clan. This is the stronghold of Varna, Baroness of Ravain. You near the heavy drawbridge. Sentries with huge black halberds block your way across the drawbridge. You try to convince them to let you enter, and let's try extra hard. They allow us through. Castle Ravain is virtually a city in its own right. The outer courtyard is filled with stables, grain stores, pens for livestock, carpentry yards, and a smithy. Nearby, some knights are keeping fighting fit by charging with lances at a straw-filled dummy. Beyond, another line of defences encloses the inner keep. The armoury in Castle Ravain resounds with the clamour of hammers on anvils. The artisans here provide arms and armour for the greatest knights of Golnir. You can buy top quality equipment or sell anything you do not need. I think we'll sell our enchanted spear. Not doing that for the money, but for the fact that we don't have enough space to carry very much otherwise. There are warrior skills here which we lack the combat ability to learn. Let's attempt to enter the inner keep. The doorway into the castle keep is guarded by elite knights in gleaming gem-studded armour. They watch you narrowly as you approach, then slowly cross their halberds to bar your path. "What is your business here?" asks one. "Well, the guards are not convinced you are important enough to be admitted to the castle. Has the Baroness summoned you?" they demand to know. "She is very busy." Knights can afford to talk like that, because they're rich, they own a significant portion of the countryside, and they can beat the living shit out of you if they want to. To convince them to let you in, you need to make a charisma roll. Let's try that. Good odds. The guards are convinced by your persuasive tongue. One of them gestures with his thumb, saying, "Go on in then, before I change my mind." The inner keep of the castle is a mighty fortress with walls several meters thick. Narrow windows admit golden shafts of sunlight into the gloomy hallway. We aren't going to seek an audience of the Baroness, but we will look for the wizard Estragon in his lair. You find Estragon in his laboratory deep under the bedrock on which the castle rests. Crude stone steps wind down into a glimmering darkness filled with strange lights and fumes. Estragon strides forward, holding an alembic which he is heating with incendiary spells. The glow of chemicals throws his seamed old face into sharp relief against the backdrop of darkness. You tell Estragon you have brought him an item he needs for his experiments. Excellent, says Estragon, snatching the scarab amulet eagerly from your hands. He teaches you a few simple enchantments, and we gain 1 point of magic permanently. We're getting better at this. I can do nothing until I acquire a mermaid's coral red tresses, Estragon tells you. I'll teach you some more of my magic when you bring me what I need. Where will I find a mermaid? He gives you a sharp look. Not in the northern hills, that's for sure. Let's leave the inner keep. Our business here is done. And now, if we want to find a mermaid, we should probably go looking in the sea. Let's see if we can take this fishing hook back to the hunters. The region between Delpton and Castle Ravane is a patchwork of tranquil fields and meadows. It seems that nothing intrudes on the slow, contented pace of daily life hereabouts. Mulhern's smithy is a large, flat boulder planted firmly in the ground, sheltered by a few chestnut trees. Legend has it that you can leave weapons or armour here for the god to work on overnight. That is very tempting. I don't think I will this time, however. I only have one weapon and one suit of armour, so let's just depart. You pass rumbling ox-drawn carts and mule trains laden with grain and cloth. Much trade passes up and down this road. We have an uneventful journey and go back to the town of Wheatfields, which we have visited before. The road wends its way past cottages, countless numbers of farms, passing through villages where the peasants live well on their bountiful harvests. An ogre emerges from behind a rock, casting his net to entangle you. His three heads converse on the topic of how you should be cooked. Boiled, declares the head with lurid red eyes. Ha! Stewed, asserts the head with tusks. Roasted, surely, suggests the smallest head. Let's join in with the discussion. Confuse them. Who asks your opinion, growls the tusked head. The other two heads, however, think you have a point. A fierce argument ensues, and finally the red-eyed head butts the tusked head so hard that both are knocked out. You climb out of the net and start to walk away. The ogre holds up a finger uncertainly. Excuse me, says the tiny head, but what am I going to say to Tusker and Stareface when they wake up? Tell them to stick to eating rabbits in the future. We'll go back down to the Texan Tavern. A tavern squats beside a mill pond. Weeping willows shade the tables in the beer garden at the back. It looks an inviting place to spend a few days. Let's not. Can we get here from Goldfall, or do we need to be on the other side of the river? Let's not risk it. We'll go to the monastery of Mulhern. Mulhern is the blacksmith of the gods, famous for his cleverness and the breadth of his knowledge. Here at the monastery, his most devout adherents live an austere existence, striving to honour the god through a regimen of hard physical labour combined with academic study. If you're injured, this is a good place to rest and recuperate from your wounds. We don't need to spend time here. You come to Conflass, a thriving market town at the point where the two rivers meet. It is a delightful town of white-fronted houses with brightly painted timber frames. The burghers of the town are open and friendly. As one explains to you, we tell the baronies that we pay tax to the Sakarans, and the Sakarans that we pay tax to Castle Ravane, so they both leave us alone. That's why you'll never find a long face in Conflass. You know what? Why don't we go to the inn and buy a round of drinks and listen for rumours? You meet 5 elderly priests in long robes. Joining them at their table, you ask them where they are bound. We travel all over Golnir, says the oldest, teaching people about the gods. You must have met some strange sorts in your time. He nods. Indeed. The most intractable were of the bald folk of the Forsaken Forest. They attack and murder anyone who has a head of hair, scalping them to make wigs. Do not forget the citizens of Dwemer, chimes in the youngest priest, a fellow of about 60. They admire godlessness as if it were a virtue. Well, we're going to have trouble if we go there then, aren't we? Right, let's head north towards the Abbey of Lacuna. We're not going to try and find it. The broad, gently rolling pasture lands between Grim and the Rainbow Rivers lies before you. Wool is sent south from here to make the rich merchants of the merchant princes of Ringhorn and to make the rich gowns of the merchant princes of Ringhorn and Matricians. Now we'll go to the Rainbow River. You follow the course of the frothing Rainbow River as it tumbles across flat, glistening stones and boulder-strewn rapids. An uneventful journey. Let's go back to the waterfall. We've been here before. We're now spamming the riverbank in the hope of meeting some hunters in a canoe to see what they might give for a fishing hook. The hunters are in a quandary. They cannot go home to their wives until they have caught some fish, but they have lost their only hook. "Oh, can you help?" they implore. We do have a fishing hook that we purchased reasonably cheaply. Actually, 5 shards was pretty expensive. The hunters are so relieved at not having to face their wives empty-handed that they spend the rest of the morning teaching you how to fish. As you bid the hunters farewell, they present you with a large potion of nature, which we probably won't need for a while, but let's head south into these eerie woods. These are eerie woods, haunted by the rustling of leaves and the occasional mournful cry of an animal far off between the trees. Not many people are to be seen this far from the farmlands of the river valley. Oh, dear. We see some smoke above the treetops. You make your way to a camp where a bevy of beautiful young dancers are cavorting around a firelight. Their footsteps are so light that they hardly make the dry leaves rustle at all. You are happy to share the fire at this cold night. As you sit on a pillow of dead leaves and watch the dancers, the heat of the fire makes you drowsy, and your eyelids feel heavy because of the wood smoke. We can make a sanctity roll or a magic roll. Given that our sanctity is 7 and magic a mere 5, we're going to go for sanctity. This is really hard. Oh no. Do we have any potions? We have a potion of godliness. And I think we have a few blessings. Mercifully, the gods were on our side. You wake up in the morning to find no sign that a camp was ever here. Perhaps you dreamed the whole thing. Rising, you set out on your way. Let's try to avoid that encounter in the future. We go back to Confless. We will explore. Your options include hiring passage on a barge going south at a cost of 3 shards, or using a ford where you can cross to the east bank of River Grim for 1 shard. Let's take the barge to Marlock City, just to avoid getting cursed by a river sprite. You sail into the teeming harbour of Marlock City. Sakaran warships escort you in. "Troubled times," comments a sailor. And we find ourselves back at Marlock City. But this, I think, is where I'm going to end the episode. We've adventured a little in Golnir. We've completed a few minor quests, haven't really run into anything that major yet. And in the next episode, we'll be going back to Yellowport and doing some things in the southeast of the country. And the south in general, I think. Alright. Well, I'll look forward to seeing you all next time. Thank you all very much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed it. Bye for now, everybody. Cheerio!